I've already summoned meteor.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, indie game dev, and my UK bruv from another mum, Cal Monroe. Callum, how the hell are you?
I'm good. I actually forgot to mention it to you before, but I'm now double dosed up with my vaccine. So
Nice.
I've got great.
Let me see those guns. Did they improve? Did the muscles increase at all?
I've got great signal on my
Nothing?
phone now. I don't know whether that's related, but no, yeah, I do actually
it
feel I do feel a little bit funny today. I had it on Monday, and felt a little bit strange afterwards. But I feel a bit ropey today, so I don't know if that's related. So if I like puke on camera, then that'll be why. But I'll make sure I give you a heads up if that's going to happen.
Yeah, please do. I'll make sure and just take that out, put a cool soundtrack to it, and we'll forever live on.
Yeah.
As a meme. But yeah, how you been?
Yeah, good. Just busy with work and in the middle of moving. So just in a bit of like limbo at the moment. I'm just looking forward to getting to my new place, settling in, and getting my routine organized. But yeah, other than that, been good. Been playing some games. How about you?
Yeah, same here. I'm still waiting for. I ordered this e-bike maybe about 3 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting for it. And I want to get on the road and ride this bike, but I don't know if they haven't built it yet or what the hell's going on. But I'm excited for that. Other than that, there's no real excitement. I had that one dose, yeah, so I'm halfway there. I think I have my next appointment in 2 weeks. And although at our northwest town, our county, they're about to announce Monday to roll back to like the last phase we were in. So maybe they jumped the gun on stuff. So it's kind of a bummer because there's like glimmers of hope, and then they go, nope, let's actually reverse it because it's not doing well. So yeah, that's going to happen, which sucks, but it is what it is.
I'm just choking here. So
what can you do? Yeah, that's because it's not me this time. Yeah, usually it's as soon as we start recording, the little throat golems or whatever just kind of come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, it's now you that's doing it to me. So, or it might be the fact that I just choked on water, but it could be a mixture of both.
I do that all the time with just like spit in my mouth. So I'm just like sitting on the couch, just watch something, and then just I'll just start, dying.
Just dying,
And my wife's like, "What the heck is wrong with you?"
Yeah, I love that as well. Like when you start choking on water or something, whoever you're with, they're never worried. They're always like, "Can you not like do that?"
Yeah.
It's like, sorry.
Yeah, it's always an annoyance, but
yeah,
it really frames how like fragile our bodies are. We're just 1 second away from dying, just based on how your body works. Like, just kind of build it better next time. Whoever's making these bodies, just make it more efficient.
Evolve quicker. I mean, surely we've been drinking water like the entire time we've been a species. So surely it should just be one tube that goes down, and it shouldn't ever go down the wrong. Like, what does that other one even do? Is it the one we breathe?
It's just an extra one. I think they left it in there on accident, probably. Or there's like the appendix, which is still in there, and that's just like a ticking time bomb to kill you. Or your tonsils. Yeah. It's like, there's tons of things in here that are just leftover content that need to be removed.
Yeah, my appendix already tried to kill me when I was a young boy. So yeah, that's
really?
That's gone. But I sometimes feel like, I don't know. People talk about like a phantom like itch when something's gone. I sometimes feel like, well, maybe there is a little like organ in there. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm just delirious from my my nano machines from my vaccine. So
yeah, there's it's appendix, which I still have everything. I have the appendix still. I have my tonsils still, wisdom teeth still. So one day I'm just gonna explode because all the stuff it hasn't come out yet and it needs to come out. So I don't know what to do. Alrighty, Callum. Well, you've been playing some games. What you been playing? I know. I think we have both spent some time on Soulstorm, Oddworld Soulstorm. You want to give me some thoughts on that? I'm only about an hour in, but what do you think about it so far?
Yeah, I've played probably about 3 hours or so, and yeah, I really, really like it. It's I can tell it's going to be hard. I mean, it's already been hard, and it's very stressful. It's just one of those games that I'm just stressed out constantly whilst playing it. But sort of whenever I feel like I see like a part coming up and I think, oh, that looks difficult, once you're sort of like into it, once you're into that next like section, it starts to become a bit more satisfying, a bit more approachable, and you sort of start to think, ah, that's how it wants me to do it. I found the checkpoints quite nice as well. So, but yeah, it's got some really really
Yeah.
cool aspects to it, especially when you start to find the little Mudokons and sort of get them to follow you, and sort of you go into that little secret areas, and you got to try and make sure they don't get killed and all that. It's very fun. A little bit buggy at times. I've had a few bugs that have sort of stopped me from being able to do something, or I mean, not nothing massive, but a few sort of irritating things. But aside from that, I think it's really charming. The cutscenes are really great. The voice acting's really funny, and I really love just like the little things, like how everything's named. Like the naming conventions are just, you can tell that like whoever's in charge of doing all that, they just have a really great humor, and a good sort of eye for like style. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's good fun. There's some like crafting features which I've barely sort of scratched the surface of. And yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, I'm having the same kind of experiences. I haven't got to the point where you have the lemmings yet. Whatever they're called. You said muticons,
Mudokons, I think that's what Abe is as well.
mudicons.
I think it's like their little race.
Gotcha. Yeah, and this is my first time really playing a game in the series. I did grow up seeing. I want to say it was the original Xbox had Abe's Odyssey or something like that. And it just seemed very weird. But so this franchise has been around for a while. But I'm really digging it. The intriguing part, like that keeps me playing, is the way that the puzzles unfold, and you have to kind of figure them out, or the way that platforming is mixed in with the kind of puzzle scenario, and they don't really punish you so much for dying, because those checkpoints are pretty frequent, so you can kind of try stuff and figure it out. They're not like super complicated yet, but there is a little bit of a challenge there. But I'm digging it. The controls are kind of weird. I guess it's just there's a lot that you have to kind of understand to do, and maybe not a lot, but just the way that they have you like throw an item, which is kind of like you have to almost like retrain your brain a little bit. But it isn't much of a hurdle. You just kind of have to get used to how the controls work. But I'm digging it. You mentioned the voice acting. It's awesome. It's super adorable the way they talk to each other, the way Abe talks. The cutscenes are beautiful. The world is beautiful too. So I'm very interested in continuing this and playing more of it, because it's really cool. And I'm glad I jumped in.
Yeah, I think you're right about the controls. I think they can be a little bit fiddly sometimes, especially when it wants you to be a bit more, quick reactions and things like that. But yeah, I think like you said with the checkpoints, it does seem to be quite approachable. It's almost as though, I mean, it seems like it's been tested a lot, because every time I feel like something's about to get really fiddly, or I'm going to need to try and react really quickly, it seems to give me like a little window of time to get myself sorted. And yeah, the checkpoints themselves, just by being so frequent, sort of give you that little bit of sort of help. And it reminds me a little bit of Dead Cells, that roguelike game, which I saw a video about where the developers were talking about it and saying how in every single decision they made it more fair, for as fair to the player as much as possible. So they make the window of grabbing a ledge sort of a little bit longer, and like invincibility
Mm.
frames when you're rolling a little bit longer, just to try and make it as approachable as possible. Because in Oddworld Soulstorm, the difficulty isn't perhaps from your reactions or your ability to platform or to do things like that. It's your ability to figure out the best way around something, the best way to do something without losing your followers, or without doing something in a certain way. So yeah, it's a good game, and I'm excited to sort of give it a go, because I think give the trophies a go as well, because I think this kind of game lends itself well to those kind of challenges. So I'm looking forward to seeing testing myself against that.
I was wondering too, have the previous games used kept with the whole side-scrolling, platforming, or have they ventured into 3D, gameplay, or is this kind of just going back to the original 2D? Like, I haven't really done any research.
I'm not sure. So the only odds, well, I've played two Oddworld games before, and that was Abe's Odyssey on the PS1, and also was it New and Tasty or something like that on the PlayStation 3 or 4.
Sounds familiar.
Both
Yeah.
both of those were very similar layout to the new one. It's like kind of 2.5D kind of thing. So I'm not sure. I know that Soulstorm is a remake of or a reimagining of Old World Exodus, which is one I haven't played before. So I think they're all these sort of side-scrolling 2.5D platformers. But I could be wrong, and I think that a 3D game would be cool. But I think the main sort of draw is this kind of fun puzzle, the fun puzzles that can only sort of be created in this kind of genre.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm excited to play more of it, and yeah, it's super cute, and I just love how all the characters talk, and it's just
Mm.
adorable, and they're
Yeah,
so weird looking that it works. Like they're so gross and ugly that it's actually adorable. So
yeah,
they really nailed that. I think it's the eyes. The eyes are so big on the
yeah,
characters where it's just like, okay, I love you now.
yeah.
I don't want to ever see you in real life, but I love you.
And I think that the
Alrighty,
cutscenes.
Calum. So there is.
Sorry, I think there's a little bit of a delay there.
Go for it.
But yeah, I think like
Yeah.
the cutscenes are like just so they're like a massively high like production value, which I didn't expect. Kind of reminded me of like watching like an animated movie, like just the way the characters, their mannerisms in the cutscenes. It feels very well animated, whether it's mocapped or whatever. It just seems really high quality, which I didn't expect at all. It doesn't quite translate into the gameplay sections, but the gameplay is still great and good fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did think some of the cutscenes in the very beginning were a little like heavy-handed, where it took a while before you could actually start playing the game. So I know I'd spent a good, I don't know, it felt like 30 minutes just watching these various cutscenes and not having any idea what the hell's going on. I was just like, okay, just want to jump in. But yeah, it opened up. I was just being impatient, but it was a little bit of that. Well, Callum, so there's been a bunch of very positive PlayStation news. It's been a great week for PlayStation. It's nothing negative, so it's pretty cool to jump in to some of this stuff. So let's start with what the biggest story of the week I would say is what dropped yesterday. So we got some news with this expose with Jason Schreier from Bloomberg talking about a Last of Us 1 remaster and a Days Gone 2 sequel that was canceled or just didn't get greenlit. So let's jump into this. It's kind of a lengthy one, so we'll start at least first with getting the facts out of the way with that Last of Us 1 remake, and then we'll tackle the Days Gone stuff. So here is from Bloomberg, the actual article, which I would recommend everyone go check out. These are just excerpts from that article. Sony's obsession with blockbusters is stirring unrest within PlayStation empire. This is Bloomberg's Jason Schreier. Sony Corp's Visual Arts Service Group has been the go-to support team for PlayStation first-party studios. They add additional support to AAA first-party games, and they're based in San Diego. About 3 years ago, a handful of influential figures within the Visual Arts Service Group decided they wanted to have more creative control and lead game direction rather than just supporting major titles. Michael Mumbauer, who took over direction of the Visual Arts Service Group in 2007, recruited a group of about 30 developers internally and from neighboring game studios to form a new studio within Sony. The idea was to expand some of the company's most successful franchises, and the team began working on a remake of the 2013 hit The Last of Us for PlayStation 5. But Sony never fully acknowledged the team's existence or gave them the funding and support needed to succeed. According to people involved, the studio would never get not even get its own name. I butchered that. Known internally as T1X, the Last of Us 1 remake project by Mumbauer and his team completed an initial reveal to newly appointed PlayStation head of Worldwide Studios Herman Holtz. Holtz wasn't impressed and concerned with the budget the project would demand, shifted devs from Naughty Dog to help support T1X. But once Last of Us 2 was delayed from 2019 to 2020, Mumbauer's team once again was forced to help another studio with development, adding additional support for The Last of Us 2. Once The Last of Us 2 development reached its end, additional Naughty Dog devs were brought on to the T1X project, being placed under Naughty Dog's budget, and eventually all decision-making shifted to Naughty Dog fully, where the project reportedly lives today. Deflated, the small group's leadership has largely disbanded. According to interviews with 8 people familiar with the operation, many, including Mumbauer, have left the company entirely. So there's a lot to digest. This company this service group that's been helping on support for a bunch of AAA first-party games for PlayStation. They're trying to branch off, create their new thing, and their first project is to pitch this Last of Us 1 remake, which gets going, and they kind of then get absorbed back into helping Naughty Dog again. And now that project is apparently still back at Naughty Dog. How do you feel about a Last of Us remaster on PS5?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't really understand why it needs one. I mean, we've already had one on the PS4, which is available on PS5. Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, the only possible thing I can think of, the reason why it's happening is something akin to the Ratchet and Clank reboot, which was kind of like a standalone thing. I mean, the new Ratchet and Clank game isn't even a sequel to that, and it was released as a version of the Ratchet and Clank movie. So whether or not they're really looking to make some narrative changes with the HBO series and they want to release a new game to sort of partner alongside that and sort of make it like a standalone thing with the series. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's the only like possible explanation I can think of, because otherwise, I just don't know why this needs to happen at all. Um, Obviously, there's the more sort of rumorish details about the team working on it and how Sony treated them and things like that. That's not good either. But obviously, it's different, sort of when you're there and knowing what's actually happening. But yeah, as for a remake of The Last of Us One, it's yeah, very random and not something that I think we need at all.
Yeah, so I share mixed thoughts, but I've been scanning the Twitterverse since this stuff came out, and really there's been no positive thoughts where people really want this thing. I think a lot of us, would we play this on the Last of Us 2 engine on PS5? Hell yeah, I would pay right now to play it because that sounds awesome. At the same time, we don't need it. It's like this game is 8 years old. We got a remaster 7 years ago on the PS4. Then maybe 6 months ago, a little around there, they adjusted the load times, so it's now lightning quick to load it. So it's just not old enough. Really, you shouldn't even be sniffing around the idea of remastering or remaking a game. At least around 10 years, and that's like at the very least. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just very strange. But it seems like the article itself really frames how the decision making now with PlayStation is to tackle these bigger budget projects, and especially with remasters, the ones that can that require the most minimum amount of work, that can get the biggest payoff. Which, yeah, I get that makes business sense, but it's just something that no one really has ever even thought about asking for. It's like, before I even think about this, I just wanted the Last of Us 2 on PS5. I wasn't even thinking about Last of Us 1 on PS5. So it's very strange. Do you think you would pick this up if they drop this, next month or whatever, surprise reveal? Would you actually purchase this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to play it, but it depends how much it would be. Um, just because I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I played the first Last of Us game. I know it came out 7 years ago, but I probably played it much more recently than that. So I don't really have any reason to, if it was to be more based on the HBO series, because we've already talked about how they're planning on making some changes to the story or to some sort of beats there. So whether they are planning to release it alongside the HBO series, and like the same with the 2014 Ratchet and Clank game, or whenever that 2016, whenever that came out, then I think that I'd be more likely to want to pick it up straight away. But if it's just a beat for beat remake in the new engine, then I don't know whether I'd really care that much. I mean, I'd definitely play at some point, but yeah, I mean, I've got such a big backlog. I don't know whether a game I've quite recently played would, be that high of a priority for me.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Because yeah, online, I've seen almost no support for this project. People wanting or needing it. It's like we just don't need it. There's other things that could be remade, remastered, and there's just so many that we've talked about throughout these months of, like, say, Resistance, bringing it back, Killzone, Sly Cooper. There's all these different properties that PlayStation has that are just on the table that could be brought back to life, but to then put the attention on this seems really strange. And it's a larger topic, but does this mean that, are there signs on the wall that the best decisions aren't being made? Like with Sony going forward, are they starting to kind of go into this territory of just the wrong decisions, the wrong projects being focused on and greenlit?
yeah, I mean, perhaps I think we've already said that it's looking like PlayStation are returning to their sort of cocky PlayStation 3 selves. Um, I think, I mean, it's obviously a terrible move, terrible decision in hindsight, and everything like that. And but again, I think these kind of decisions are probably made all the time. We just don't get to hear about them. I think when everything like this is under a sort of a microscope, it can just make it seem like the end of the world. Which I get, and it is again like I'm not saying this is a good decision by any stretch, and I love Days Gone as well, which we'll get into. Um, but yeah, stupid decisions like this are made all the time. And it's just important to remember that as soon as something big drops, everyone will forget about this, and that's just how fickle the games industry is. But yeah, at this current moment in time, reading that expose, it's not good. It is reeking of cockiness, just Sony trying to think they know best and not listening to anybody, and it just falls in line with the timing of closing the PlayStation 3 and the Vita stores as well. It's just not a good look at all, and it's it is worrying, but I'm not too concerned just because I know that there's still a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out that's going to be great, and hopefully this resurgence will help bend. Maybe be able to make Days Gone 2, whether or not it's even at PlayStation or whatever. But it's good that this has been exposed and people are able to voice their opinion on it, because hopefully PlayStation will listen. But they're not known to do that, so we'll have to wait and
No.
see.
Yeah, and another side of this too is with Naughty Dog. I feel like they've got to be super tired with flip flopping between the two big franchises they've handled for the past like 10 years, with Uncharted going back to Last of Us and then back and forth, and this maybe not the majority of the team, but some of the team now focusing on this remaster or remake, then going back to Last of Us. You think they'd want to really focus on something else, and it seems like the project originally was another studio handling this remake, so that freed them up to work on whatever new property, hopefully. But now it's being absorbed back to them. It just seems like you think they'd be tired of doing this and want to creatively just move on to something else. So it's very strange, but I think you nailed it. Where this seems like they were planning to have this coincide with that show, and whether they change it to make it work with the changes of the show, I don't know. I feel like that's going to be a lot of work, and especially if Herman Hulse was worried about budgets and whatnot and making time. I don't think he wants to also have them tailor it to whatever changes they make to the show. But I think they're trying to capitalize on those new fans and new people coming in and having this coincide with the HBO show. It seems like that's what's going on. But nobody nobody wants this. Maybe it's just nerds on the internet. We're freaking out. But as people walk by their big budget stores and they see the box art, oh cool, I've never heard of this. I'll try it. And it's on PS5 and it looks good. So at the end of the day, they might just make so much money that it doesn't matter. The uproar that happens online.
It'd be so much cheaper for them to just re-release this on PS5 with some resolution upgrades, maybe some additional texture patches or whatever. That'd be much cheaper from their point of view, and I'm sure people will buy it still. So it is a very strange decision. We'll just have to see how it plays out, and see what happens over the next few days, or the next few weeks or months as well. And yeah, it's not looking good though, and it's not something I can force myself to be excited about, because yeah, like I've said, I've played Last of Us 1 plenty of times, and not very long ago either. So it is a weird one.
Yeah, I find myself more mixed on it, and I've been reading online, and no one really shares these same thoughts. But it's like I do want to play this. I like the idea of it being on the Last of Us 2 engine and running on PS5. I think it could be crazy beautiful. And I play this game maybe once every year, so it's like it'd be cool to jump in on this new hardware. But at the same time, I can still separate that thought and realize we don't really need it. This game still holds up, and yeah, it's basically a PS3 game. I think it still holds up. You have that remaster on the PS4. We could just spend more time and energy on something else. And so it's very strange. But along with that article, which everyone should read, there's the other side of this with Days Gone. So let's jump into that. So we have Jason Schreier goes on about the topic of Sony shifting focus to bigger blockbuster releases. Oregon-based Sony Bend, best known for 2019's open-world action game Days Gone, tried unsuccessfully to pitch a sequel that year, according to people familiar with the proposal. Although the first game had been profitable, its development had been lengthy and critical reception was mixed, so a Days Gone 2 wasn't seen as a viable option. Instead, one team at the studio was assigned to help Naughty Dog with a multiplayer game, while a second group was assigned to work on a new Uncharted game with supervision from Naughty Dog. Ben's developers feared they might be absorbed into Naughty Dog, and the studio's leadership asked to be taken off the Uncharted project. They got their wish last month and are now working on a new game of their own. So, see, another strange ripple to this, but how do you feel about the idea of them not greenlighting a Days Gone 2?
Yeah, it's weird just because of the recent PC port. I thought that was a pretty clear sign that it was going ahead. Um, but yeah, it's a shame because I really like Days Gone, and I know lots of people did as well. I mean, I get that if development was lengthy, and I know critical reception wasn't the best when it first came out due to its buggy nature. I do get not greenlighting the sequel, but I just think it's risen in popularity so much that it is something that I think we've just expected. So I think that's why this kind of has such a sour taste to it. But again, hopefully the sort of outcry of support that I've seen for Days Gone will help them make a decision, and hopefully this is still something that they're looking at, because maybe releasing it on PC is something they've done to help them make that decision. So hopefully it's not the last we've seen. It doesn't spell the end of Days Gone, but it's sad because it seemed like a really promising series. But we've also got to look at it that it sounds like Bendis will still work on like a new IP, so they're still working on something, and they've proven that they can shift to the big AAA space. And so either way, I'm excited to see what's going to come out of there next.
Yeah, that part's interesting too, because if we're worried about, or Herman Hulse is worried about the idea of these budgets ballooning and development taking longer again, on a Days Gone 2 sequel, um, worried about, how the development went on Days Gone. If you have Sony Ben work on a new IP, that's going to take even longer and cost more money. It's like, just have them, succeed on that franchise they established. And it's hard to establish franchises. It's not easy. And they pretty much nailed it. Yeah, it had mixed responses, but they really worked on the bugs and fixed that when after that release, and when the first couple of weeks of that release, and it's gone to gain a lot of positive reviews from people. And you have the PC release as well. It's like, why have them start on a whole new thing, start from scratch? That would be way more expensive. And I know going back to Days Gone, like I never finished it. I'm maybe about 5 hours in. It didn't really click or latch on to me. I do want to give it a shot again. But I love the idea of them really trimming the fat. There was a lot of complaints over the length of the game too. Them just, calibrating and working on what made the first one work so well, and then blowing everyone out of the water with the sequel. That's an awesome idea. So it's incredibly strange for them to just say, nope, drop it, work on something new, which would, like I said, be way more expensive, take way more time, and also not have less of a chance of succeeding. So it's just incredibly strange.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this one I'm definitely a lot more mixed on than the rest. I don't think this one's quite as sort of objective, because they don't have to go, oh yeah, you can make a sequel to that. And I think Days Gone is a good self-contained game anyway. I don't think it does necessarily need a sequel, but it's always just sad to know that it was pitched and it was rejected. But like I said, these are things that happen all of the time. If we knew about every single game idea that was rejected, then this kind of uproar would be sort of a much more common thing. So I don't think this one's quite as bad for me. I think that it's kind of a fair sort of thing to say no to a sequel. But I think just timed with the stuff that's gone on with this Last of Us remake, and being a little bit disrespectful to this other team and everything, it's just bad optics again. And but yeah, again, I think Sony Bend have proved that they can compete in this space of AAA games. So whether or not they're going to make another Days Gone, I'm confident in whatever they make next will be great. And at least now PC players will be able to play Days Gone, so it's going to live on a bit longer anyway.
Yeah, so there's a couple things with that too. So with Sony Bend, we've heard for a while rumors of an Uncharted, not a remake, but them continuing on the franchise. Somebody within Sony continuing on the franchise. There was an idea of the secret, I want to say San Diego studio, and maybe that's this group that was from the first article. That was the actual studio that never really got confirmed. But it does make sense to have Sony Bend tackle that Uncharted series because they worked on what Golden Abyss on the Vita. It makes sense for them to take it over, but it seems like there's fears within that team of them just getting shut down or just fully absorbed into Naughty Dog, and then now they work on Uncharted, and they really did not want to do that. I guess if they're not tackling that next entry, somebody is, or if that's just still in that rumor side of things where there really isn't any set studio working on keeping Uncharted alive. But I would imagine that over the Last of Us One remake.
Yeah, I think Uncharted is definitely a series that deserves to be revisited, whether or not it's a remake of the first game or a new game like The Lost Legacy or something that maybe doesn't feature Nathan Drake as like a main protagonist. I think it's definitely ripe for something like that. And I think, I mean, we've probably talked about it lots before, but Uncharted's a lot less serious of a series as well. It's a lot more open to experimentation. I mean, like Golden Abyss, obviously, the stories are a lot more lighthearted, so I think it's easier to experiment with and bring something out. So yeah, I think I'd much prefer something from Uncharted than the first Last of Us game, which we've all played to death very recently. Um, so yeah, it all just seems like very poor decisions from my point of view. Maybe it's a little bit different when you're actually behind the scenes there, but it doesn't look good to everybody, and everybody's voicing their opinion on it, and hopefully it will only bring positive change.
Yeah, it's interesting because the narrative right now is a lot of negativity with PlayStation and just higher up executives. The decision making there seems out of touch, right? So
Mm.
with Twitter, with this news coming out, everyone's been blowing up Sean Layden, who is the ex worldwide head of the worldwide studios. And if we rewind back to 2019, there was a lot of weirdness with how he left. It was kind of just unceremoniously announced, and he kind of went quiet, and then eventually it was revealed. I want to say a month later, ex Guerrilla Games president CEO Herman Hulse then moved into that position, and I wonder if we can find all the decision making back to that point where we started to see a shift. But a lot of people are trying to get there's no way to get Sean Layden back, but they're trying to show support that like, hey, it seems like under your guide there was a it was way more successful. It was a PlayStation that people were excited about, were happy about. They had the PlayStation 4 reveal with how they showed off sharing games. There's that iconic moment where they have that little a short video where it's on one stage Shuhei and someone else, forget his name, but they're just passing each other a game, showing this is how you share games as a blast to Xbox. Their whole chit show of how you would handle digital games and sharing. So there was like a kind of a golden era there, and people are hungry and asking for that same kind of care to be brought back because it seems like at large that this new guide, this new leadership is not going in that same route.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good point, and I think there's definitely some strange decisions being made currently, but I don't know whether that's just we've just been unfortunate to have been given all this information, about the PlayStation stores closing and all of this all at the same time. Um, it is definitely a moment of overconfidence. It seems like, and thinking that they know best when perhaps it's not looking like they do. But we'll just have to see. I think it is such a fickle sort of industry. I mean, if you look back to when Xbox were first announcing their Series X and PlayStation were being very quiet and everybody was sort of, I mean, nowhere near to the degree now, but everybody was sort of being negative about PlayStation. Then PlayStation made one, you know, reveal about the PS5 and it was all forgotten about. And I'm sure this is going to be the same case. All we need is a God of War trailer a PlayStation Now announcement, and this is just going to all be forgotten. And I think it's important to be conscious of that and be conscious of how quick things move, because whether or not it's Jim Ryan's fault or Herman Hulst's fault, um, they're gonna, people are gonna come and go who are making the decisions, and it's always going to be changing. And there's always room for poor decisions to be made and good decisions to be made, at any place. So I think it's important that we don't sort of worry too much and get too caught up in it. But yeah, I mean, to look at it here and now, it isn't good. But we've also got to remember that there are a lot of good things coming, and we've still got all these amazing services like Xbox Game Pass and all these amazing games on PlayStation coming, and just the next gen consoles in general. I think we just don't need to. I don't think we need to worry as much as perhaps people are worrying, is what I'm trying to say. But I do like the memes and the discussions that sort of breed from it.
Now you mentioned something interesting, and I wonder if this could work against PlayStation. Where you're right, where there is this negativity that comes out with whatever unfavorable thing they mention, new feature that they remove or whatnot, but they can always count on in their back pocket. They have that next reveal they can show that kind of trumps any negativity, and everyone's back on board. You mentioned how PlayStation were quiet for so long with PS5, and then all they needed was one big tweet, and then everyone's back on board. Do you think that works in a negative way against them, and can kind of reinforce that whole PS3 era where they keep thinking we're on top, doesn't matter, as soon as we drop the next God of War trailer or what have you, Spider-Man 5, it's like they always have those big reveals that it doesn't matter what they do to some extent. Do you think that can kind of almost like reinforce their negative the way they carry themselves with that PS3 era?
Yeah, for sure. I think if they notice a trend of them making poor decisions or creating negativity and then realizing that they can just dispel that with a new announcement, then of course it means that they think they have sort of unlimited get out of jail free cards. And I don't think that's the case, but I just think that there's always time to fix your mistakes, especially in this kind of industry. I mean, if you look at Xbox, they've gone really like way down and really out of touch of their gamers to or their sort of audience to being right up there with arguably the best service at the moment and treating their consumers really well. And it's just a shifting thing. It's, I mean, as much as I don't think like not I'm not saying it's a shifting thing as in one's on top, one's on the other. I just mean that every single company that are in the spotlight, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox, Microsoft, Sony, Netflix, Apple, whatever, they always will make poor decisions, be at the sort of bottom of everyone's opinions, and then they'll do something amazing and they'll be at the top, and then a few years later they'll do something awful and they'll be. I just think it's just better to look at it from like with the big picture sometimes and just think, oh, that's a really terrible decision and why are they doing that, but not sort of acting like this now means PlayStation are going to be terrible for forever. It's definitely a passing thing. And I mean, we're talking about two games here out of many different games, and there's going to be lots of third party games and everything like that as well. So I mean, I'm sure in a couple of months time, hopefully there'll be not another negative thing, but you never know, there might be a super positive thing that everyone's on top of the world about. So I just think I think it's just important to not get lost in this huge like as if it's a huge deal and everything like that, because it's just so fickle that it changes so quickly.
Yeah, you're totally right. And for me, it's I feel mixed where you're 100% on the money, where it's like you still have to look at the whole picture, and there's still a lot of positivity going. It's just I can't deny those little things that are just starting to stack up, and they're just
Mm,
little things on their own, but they're just starting to stack and kind of become a larger issue, and
yeah.
it might be too much to kind of look at that and go, okay, there's this shift that's going on. I think it's
Mm,
way too early to tell, but I can't deny that it's in the back of my mind. I just keep worrying. I keep hoping that that's nothing. These are speed bumps. But the only time will tell. But
yeah.
you're right that we have to chill and wait and see what's going on because it is too early. But I'm
Yeah.
just hoping that they listen to some of this feedback and are willing to adjust. Sony hasn't really historically done that, but with the PS4 era, it seems like they were very conscious with what consumers wanted and the feedback. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
that they can do that because Xbox is that's all they've been doing for the past
Mm.
couple of years is listening to feedback and adjusting. And so you have that competition now with a company that at least publicly is really listening to consumers. So you can't really drop the ball at all right now because they have the spotlight as this, very consumer friendly company. So if you're going toe to toe with them, you got to be able to, to at least on the outside look like you are functioning the same way.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. There's something going wrong at PlayStation right now. That's easy to see, and it's a real shame. Just, I mean, it's a shame when anything. I mean, for us that love just playing games, it's always a shame when things are just not looking good for sort of part of it, and it definitely requires people to voice their concern. And I think that's what's great about this expose is that people can voice their concern, let them know that they're going about this the wrong way. Um, but yeah, I just I just like to sort of because when you think back at like you had the PS2 where it was like so there could be no wrong done by PlayStation. Then the PlayStation 3 and it was just the worst thing ever with the cell chip and the price and just the really strange just things that they did with it. And then you have the PS4 where it's just like it's literally just like a curve where they just go from down to up, from down to up, and so I think I think it's mostly just people on Twitter who are just so reactionary and act like it's the worst thing ever. I've seen people saying how they're going to sell their PlayStation and all of this stuff, and it's just like it is
No,
a
they're not.
terrible it's like it's a terrible decision clearly, but it's not gonna like this is honestly it's gonna last like a month or two at most of as in the sort of main narrative of what's going on. But hopefully they will sort of be embarrassed by seeing it in this light and really take a look at what they're doing and try and make sure they're more respectful to their smaller studios and just a bit more careful because I'm sure they won't want this to happen again. I mean, no one likes bad PR, so hopefully it will force them to be a bit more consumer friendly, a bit more friendly to their smaller studios, and just listen to what people actually want because that seems to be a problem with them at the moment.
Yep, I agree. We'll continue to follow it. We'll see whatever crazy situation happens next week. I'm sure something will go down, but hopefully it's nothing crazy, but we'll see. Callum, we got our next one here is some interesting drama that was happening with this game Abandoned. So let's get into this. We got PS5 exclusive survival game Abandoned borders on photorealism. This is Sammy Barker of pushsquare.com. In production at Dutch developer Blue Box Game Studios, the upcoming exclusive due out later this year promises a cinematic first-person horror survival shooter set in a highly detailed open-world environment. Despite the project being early, the visuals are staggering at times in this trailer. The title's targeting realism, so everything you do has a consequence. Playing as the game's protagonist, Jason Longfield, if he is out of breath after sprinting or is afraid, his firing accuracy will suffer, explained game director Hassan Kahraman. Unlike action shooter titles, firing weapons in Abandoned will be realistically slow. You will need to be tactical in order to survive. So this was announced, and it got a little weird because it was announced on the PlayStation blog, and it just seemed kind of out of left field. So people took this as, oh, this might be a secret Kojima game. So we have our next little leeway is this from Polygon. Danish developer Blue Box Game Studios announced its PlayStation 5 exclusive, the first-person survival horror shooter named Abandon, on Wednesday via Sony's PlayStation blog. Almost immediately, PlayStation fans came to a conclusion about its teaser trailer. This is secretly a Hideo Kojima game. Enough people thought that the studio was forced to address speculation that Abandon was a stealth announcement for something else entirely and to deny Kojima's involvement on its website. So yeah, it's not the next Kojima project at all. But how do you feel about this trailer? This was dropped through the PlayStation blog. Looks pretty interesting, but not a lot to go on. But how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when people try and make strides into sort of realism in ways that perhaps have been explored before but never been done sort of to full effect. It's not really something that I'm personally a fan of. The whole getting out of breath went from sprinting and slow shooting. It's definitely an interesting thing to try and do and to accomplish. But I mean, it's like games like Armor and all these like military sim games that they're just not for me. I prefer games that are games and they're designed to be fun and I'm not saying that this isn't being designed to be fun, but Um, I just don't find the attraction in playing a game because of how realistic it is personally. But it looks really cool. It looks really beautiful, and the ideas for these sort of like mechanics that will make it more realistic are really cool. And I'm sure it will definitely find an audience because there are people who love that kind of approach to games where they try and make it as realistic and as hardcore as possible. Um, but yeah, I did see something about how the developers were kind of miffed that people thought it was Kojima, and I don't know if it's like a lost in translation thing, but I don't know why you'd be miffed because that's given this game like a huge spotlight that perhaps it wouldn't have got if
Right.
people didn't assume that. And it's not really. I just don't really see how it's a negative thing because at the end of the day, when it's released, they're going to know it's not Kojima. So I mean, I'd personally find it quite funny to see people speculating about a project, thinking it was something it wasn't. But yeah, no, it's cool. It looks really really neat, and hopefully it will find a good audience and come out and be good.
Yeah, it was. I watched this trailer and I was initially seeing people being blown away by the visuals. It looks fine to me. I don't know if I'm just being a stick in the mud, but it's also not this like insanely. It just looks like almost like a RE7 or whatever. It looks very much. It looks cool, but it doesn't look like it's just this next PC powerhouse looking, graphical
Mm,
fidelity game. And not trying to crap on it. It looks good. But there's also just maybe the bigger part is that in that trailer there really isn't much to go on. You see this the engine working, but you see just really just these stills almost like your
mm,
character is in one spot, and at the very end you see them running a little bit. There just isn't much there for me to get excited about. So, but it was blowing the internet back. I thought it looked cool. I just want to see more to really before I make my decision on it. But it's still cool. I can't wait to see more of this game and kind of develop an opinion. But yeah, it was interesting for the internet to take it apart and go, oh no, this is secretly Kojima's next game. I guess there's a little bit of merit to that because he has done these weird reveals for games for like MGS5 had this reveal under a different name and a fake developer too, but it was really secretly MGS5 the whole time. So you have that with Dead Stranding. He pretty much it was revealed it was his game from the beginning, but he has done stuff like that in the past. So I can see why people would maybe think this is him doing it again, but it seems like after all, it's not Kojima. Which is a segue into our next one. So there's maybe some interesting news with Kojima's next game not being on PlayStation. So this is Xbox is reportedly in talks to publish Hideo Kojima's next game. This is Tom Ivan of Video Games Chronicle. Microsoft is reportedly in talks with Hideo Kojima to publish the next game from the Japanese designer best known for the Metal Gear series Solid series. That's according to VentureBeat, which claims Xbox hopes to make the second game from Death Stranding studio Kojima Productions the focus of a plan to leverage Japanese talent. While the site source was unable to confirm if Microsoft has yet to actually sign a deal for the new Kojima game, it claims a Kojima Productions figurine spotted on Xbox boss Phil Spencer's shelf during a presentation in February was hinting at a potential partnership. So we might have talked about the actual statue in Phil Spencer's shelf when it happened, but it seems like there's more rumors circulating around this being a thing. How do you feel about this?
yeah. I, I I don't know whether the figurine is anything to really think of. I know that it's almost like a meme now because I know that people always pick out things in the background of Phil Spencer's videos. Um, but yeah, it'd be definitely an interesting thing if it was to go to Xbox. I mean, they're acquiring so much great talent, and they're not really known to acquire Japanese talent that much. So it'd be really really nice to see that. I'm a fan of Japanese games, except Kojima, really. But it'd be nice to
Right.
see Xbox branch out and get these sort of different games on their ecosystem. So yeah, it'd definitely be interesting. Again, I always say I'm not part of the sort of like ravenous crowd of Kojima fans. So it's not really something I follow or am too bothered about. But it's great for fans of those games, especially if it goes to Xbox because then they'll get it on Xbox Game Pass day one. So it's exciting.
Yeah, there's something I just thought about as you were speaking about this. How much I hate you. No, it was I was thinking of Now they made that deal. Kojima Productions made that deal with Sony for that exclusive title, Death Stranding, and they're also using that Decima engine. So when they were able to use that, did they get full blown control? So now that they have their modified or straight up version of the Decima, can they use that to now make games wherever they want, and including make a deal with Xbox, or would that make it legally void, or they can use it, but then PlayStation gets a cut because they're using that engine, or does Kojima just use a completely different engine? I wonder if that throws a stick in the mud or a complication to him making this deal and where he goes afterwards if he wants to use that Decima engine.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be a good opportunity for Gorilla and Sony to benefit from outsourcing this engine because I mean, it's only going to get them, money. Probably similar to Epic and with Fortnite and PUBG using Epic's engine, and most games using Unreal. So I think it's actually a
Mm.
great opportunity for Gorilla to show that this engine is available for you know other studios, and I don't really see that being an issue if they were to be acquired by Xbox. But you never know how whether there's any pettiness or anything. But I doubt it. I doubt that would be a thing. At least I'd hope so. Anyway, I'd hope that they wouldn't sort of tap into this kind of rivalry, and just realize that this is an opportunity for them to outsource this engine, and just show. I mean, if Kojima makes great games on their engine, it's just going to make their engine more appealing. So hopefully that wouldn't be an issue, but you never know.
Yeah, I wonder because they put in the work and the time and the money into this engine, and I feel like these companies will hold on to it, especially when it's internal and they don't. This isn't for public use kind of thing like Unreal. So I wonder if that complicates things. But I'm fully aware that Xbox would realize that, so they wouldn't be able to make this deal if that wasn't a possibility, or they just
Mm.
have another engine ready for him to use, which would take a while for him to actually produce a game. But I'm confident they understand the legality of getting them over and using that same engine. So I don't think that's really an issue at the heart of it. But I'm wondering, like, does that come into play at all? But how do you feel about the optics of Kojima going to Xbox if this is legit? Securing a deal for at least for the next game being exclusive to Xbox and not on PlayStation after launching on Death Stranding and having such a kind of a lengthy relationship with PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much sort of how much of a pull that Kojima making games for PlayStation had. I'm sure it was a lot, and I know Death Stranding was loved by a lot of people. But I mean, it's on PC. I don't think Kojima's really ever been thought of as a necessarily. I know Metal Gear Solid was mostly PlayStation exclusive, but I don't think Kojima's ever really been seen as like a one platform kind of person. So I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it wouldn't surprise me at all, especially with the moves Xbox are making recently. I don't think it will matter too much in the grand scheme of things, just because there's so many games just coming, and I think for most people, I think it's just a great thing because the more games going to Xbox sort of exclusively means the more games available on Xbox Game Pass, which I just think is any just an amazing thing. So yeah, I think maybe optically for PlayStation it could be seen as they've lost sort of an asset, especially if it's not going to come to PlayStation. But I think just for the general gamer, it's a good thing all round.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can get this played as much, anywhere as possible, as many places as possible, rather, then it's a good deal. And then to introduce Kojima into this new crowd, this Xbox crowd, at least with people that were interested in Death Stranding, but now they get to experience something else on Xbox. It's dope. And so I can't wait to see what they're actually working on. I think it's going to be a while because his games take a while. He tends to tease them early on, but it's going to be a good 3-4 years before we actually play this game. But I am excited. So, Cal, we'll move on to our next one here. So, there's a rumor Sony planning counterpunch to Xbox Game Pass. This is Robert Ramsey of PushSquare.com. According to ex-PlayStation veteran and God of War creator David Jaffe, who now provides regular commentary on the gaming industry via his YouTube channel, Sony is planning some kind of counterpunch. Speaking in a recent video, Jaffe elaborates on the Game Pass situation. What I can tell you is now I know they are doing some stuff because I know people at Sony who have told me that they are doing some stuff. There will be a response to Game Pass. We're inclined to believe Jaffe, especially since Sony's SIE president Jim Ryan was previously hinted that a reaction to Game Pass would happen at some point. That was November of last year when Ryan said, "There's actually news to come, but just not today." It's certainly an interesting time for PlayStation, as highlighted in a recent Push Square feature. Sony's optics, particularly online, really aren't great at the moment, while Xbox appears to be riding a wave of positive press. So we often talk about, does Sony need to respond to Game Pass? How do you feel about this? What do you think that response would even be? Do they just beef up PS Now? What do you think about this, Callum?
Um, yeah, I think for me personally, I think I've said before that I'm never running out of games to play. So I never switch a PlayStation on and think, oh, I wish there was something like Game Pass on here because I have no games to play. I get tons of games from PlayStation Plus, PlayStation Now, and all these things, and just the games in general that I've bought on sale and things like that. So I don't think they need. Again, for me personally, I'm not here wanting some sort of counterpunch to Game Pass. I mean, obviously, if they did do something, then I'd be ecstatic because Game Pass is one of the best, the best service in games at the moment. So to have something trying to compete with that on PlayStation would be just an amazing thing. But yeah, I don't know what they'll do. I think maybe just combine PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus into one thing. Whether they make it PlayStation Plus, maybe like £10 a year more expensive and include Now, or even if they were just to include it in with the current price, I think that would be a good way to do it. Because we've been getting loads of day one releases on PlayStation Plus, like Oddworld, Destruction All Stars, and a few of these things, and Final Fantasy VII Remake coming just less than a year after it was released. So I think PlayStation Plus is a good sort of competitor to the day one releases. I mean, nowhere near as good, obviously, but it's a good sort of substitute. And then PlayStation Now just has a huge library of games. So I think if they were to combine the two, that would be, a pretty good competitor to Game Pass. I don't think it would beat it. I don't think you can, just because Xbox have organically grown it. But yeah, I think if they were to do something, maybe something like that, I'm not sure. I mean, if there was a way to be able to get the PS3 games downloaded, if they were to add more PS3 games, like the first two Resistance games come to mind, or some of these older PlayStation 3 games like MotorStorm and things like that. Maybe that would be good. But yeah, I don't think there's really anything they can do to surpass or really compete with Game Pass, but they could definitely revamp PlayStation Now and make that a little bit better.
Yeah, we talk about this often, but they're really already, they're already having an answer to Game Pass with PS Now and with PlayStation Plus. I mean, you see really huge titles released on PlayStation Plus. So maybe it's just an optics thing. They need to change how it's perceived so
Yeah,
that people fully understand that all that stuff is there. And also, if they're really trying to compete, they can't do the same thing with which was what Xbox does, where their first party studios go there for day and day one. There's no way they're going to drop the next Spider-Man, God of War on there. They'd just be leaving so much money on the table, so they can't really do that. So I would just keep doing what they're doing, where they have these kind of third-party games, these smaller games, which are still definitely awesome games. They like Oddworld, have that drop day one on PlayStation Plus. So yeah, maybe just combine it, change the name, put a cool new fresh coat of paint on it, and so call it PlayStation Game Pass, and just so people go, oh, okay, here's the Game Pass
yeah,
competitions. Like just
yeah.
do that because they're already really competing pretty well with it. It's just kind of a different scenario.
Yeah, I mean, maybe having something like the new God of War, for example, being free on PlayStation Plus for like a week or something like that,
Mm.
or I don't know, or maybe a few days or something like that, or make it so that you can access the game early if you had PlayStation Plus, or there's definitely some things they could do. I don't think, but yeah, like you said, people just want it to be like so exact. It's like when people say, "Oh, PlayStation Plus are starting to release games on day one," and they're like, "Oh, well, that's compared to Games of Gold, not Xbox Game Pass." And it's like, yeah, but you're still getting the game. It doesn't matter like
Right.
what service it's coming from. You're still getting that game for free, or included in the subscription. So yeah, I think you're right. I think people do look at it like really semantically, and sort of it has to be exactly the same. But I think there's lots of different things they could try to make it more. It could definitely be made more enticing. I think most services can. I don't think Xbox Game Pass can because it is already just incredible. But there's definitely some things they could do. But yeah, like I said, I can't imagine really there's anybody who is like, oh, I wish I had like 100 more games to access right now, because whenever I sit there and I don't know what game to play, it's not because I don't have any games. It's because I just don't want to play anything. Because that's always the time when you go onto like the PlayStation Store and you're going, oh, I want to buy a new game, but there's no
Right.
game you actually want to buy. You're just looking around. So I mean, obviously, getting more bang for your buck is always preferred, but yeah, I don't feel the need for something like Game Pass on PlayStation because I've already got too many games and too big of a backlog to, if a Game Pass did come out for PlayStation, obviously I'd be chuffed, but I would feel really overwhelmed because I've already got like 300 games on my PlayStation. I don't really,
Yeah.
I don't need any more. I still need to play so many others. So it's not something that I personally need, but value for money is a very important thing.
Yeah, I'd say just roll PS Now into PlayStation Plus, call it something else. We're done here. Let's move on. You really also have on PS5 that PlayStation Collection, which gives you what's
Mm-hmm.
like something like 10, 12 different classic PS4 games that were iconic on PS4. You have them on PS5, so there's already quite a lot going on. But I think it's just making sure that it at face value sounds like it's their answer to to Game Pass. But I think
Mm-hmm.
they've got it taken care of. They're not going to be dropping the first party stuff there, but they can still drop really, as they have been, really amazing games on PlayStation Plus. So, yeah, I think it's just repackaging kind of thing. But they say they have some kind of answer, so we'll see what that answer is. But it will happen. Alrighty, Callum, we can segue. This is sort of related into our last one here. This is PS Now's new games are PS4 only. Sony confirms no PS5 upgrade path. This is Sammy Barker of PushSquare.com. The original story, Sony's big PlayStation Now update this week, is one of the best in a long time, with Marvel's Avengers and Borderlands 3 both part of the lineup. See here already, we're seeing juggernaut games on this service. Showcasing the company's commitment to the subscription service. However, it's also a demonstration of how messy the manufacturer's membership model is, as despite both titles featuring free PS4 to PS5 upgrades, you'll only be able to play the last gen version. There was some confusion regarding this earlier in the week, so we decided to test it out using our PS Now subscription on PS5. We're able to stream the PS4 versions of each of the aforementioned titles. You can also download the games to your hard drive, but you can only download the last gen versions. If you want to upgrade the PS5 edition, then you'll need to effectively pay for the game. Callum, this one, as I read the article and looked at it, it was kind of a bummer, but it also at the same time makes sense. This is still you're still getting a deal on this game. You're just not getting the PS5 version, which would still be awesome to have on PS5. But how do you feel about some of these games that are on PlayStation Plus or on PS Now rather being locked to their last gen versions?
I think so. We spoke about obviously Final Fantasy VII before, and I think that was it was clear that you should get the PS5 upgrade because it was already a new game. You're going to keep it forever as long as you got your PlayStation Plus subscription, and all you had to do was upgrade to Digital Deluxe Edition, which costs something like £20 to be able to get the PS5 upgrade. With PlayStation Now, it's different because both these games are available for like 3 months, or something like that. I know that they're not on there for long, so
Yeah.
to not let you play the PS5 one's a bit strange, but I don't know whether it's because of like the user base or whether just because most people are on PS4 still. But yeah, it's considering it's like for a limited time, it would have made sense to, I think, maybe have the PS5 versions. But it's difficult to argue when they are being included in the service for essentially free or for the cost of the subscription. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I find it difficult to be annoyed when a game comes onto a service like this, but it would be nice to start seeing PS5 games on PS Now because I'm pretty sure we don't have any on there. So yeah, so I think maybe in this particular instance, it's maybe a little bit of a bummer, but um, it gives you a chance to play both these games and then decide if you like it enough to buy. Um, and so I suppose that's a good thing about it. But yeah, I think maybe the PS5 versions would be great.
Yeah, I think they could have created more support by just including the PS5 versions. It's a limited time, so you have that fan base built, those people interested, and now they're going to go and buy the PS5 version of it. So you have that. You're already drumming up support there. So would it be that hard for them to do that? I don't think it necessarily it would be. Yeah, it's just a bummer. It'd be cool to play these on PS5. Really, with Avengers, I'm not going to play it, so I don't really know why I'm complaining about that. Borderlands 3, I want to try it. I know. I think you played it and you really dug it. I know my buddy Gavin did as well.
Mm.
So, but then that weird part of my brain is like, I wish I was playing the PS5 version though, and not the PS4 version. So then I end up not playing it at all. So I'm very much mixed. Yeah, just like you are on this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether there's an issue with if they were to make it the PS5 version, then it wouldn't be available on the PS4 as well. So I mean, I know that they could just put them
Mm.
both on there, but I don't know whether it's anything to do with that or not. Again, whether it's to do with the user base on PS5, with most people struggling to get them. But yeah, it's something that in the future we'd definitely like to see, because there hasn't been any PS5 games on PS Now yet, and so hopefully that's due, sort of that maybe that's the revamp that will be coming up, is something to do with that. But it is a shame. But the best thing about having Avengers on there is I remember saying when it was first sort of being released that it was the first game I've ever been excited to not buy. And now like it's super exciting to have it for free and just choose not to play it. So that's pretty great. But yeah, definitely play Borderlands 3. It's really, really awesome. I've been wanting to maybe fire it up again on PS5 because it's got a separate trophy list, but I'm not sure yet because it is a long game. But it's probably my favorite game of 2019. It's a really, really great game, and I definitely recommend it. It's super funny. It's really refreshing to play as well, because there's no, it's just designed to be fun. It's, if you want the best guns, you just got to play the game. There's no sort of way to buy yourself to the top or anything like that. It's just a really great game, and yeah, it's a brilliant shooter.
Nice. Yep. I gotta jump in. Well, you didn't play Control, which was the best game of 2019. So once you do that, then
It's
you
on the
can
list. It's
retro
on the
con
list.
Alrighty, Con. We can end it there for the week. Where can they find you and keep up with you online?
I'm on Twitter at Bear Munro.
Awesome. And you can keep up with the show as well on Twitter at Plastic Art Pod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.